Masinda was following those numbers have been covering this press briefing earlier. Good afternoon, Ronald. Well, an increase in the murder rate and the numbers of people who've been killed. What else did the police minister have to say about the problems faced in policing effectively in this country?
Well, good afternoon, Pradhan. Well, as we heard earlier on, 6,859 people were murdered in South Africa between the months of October and December last year. This is an increase of around 8.9%. What is even more concerning, Pradhan, is that the murder rate has been increasing for the past 5 years. And what is even more concerning, although we heard that sexual offences have been on the decline, the rape culture in South Africa continues, with at least 120 people raped each day in South Africa. Now, one of the concerns for the minister, he says that people generally don't like to report such cases as rape. Often such issues of rape are done at home, they're resolved at home, where he made reference to, in some families, if a family member is found to have raped a child or a young woman in the family, that they will do rituals such as slaughtering just to provide forgiveness for that child. And one of the other issues that were raised by the police, the challenges that they face on their own, is trying to fight crime in densely populated areas. He made reference of squatter camps that have filled up in many areas. He made reference here in Cape Town, where a number of these squatter camps have popped up in areas such as COVID-19, where hundreds and not thousands of people live there, and it's difficult for the police to navigate, or when people want to report crimes, it's very difficult for them to go to the police stations. But the police are saying that they are turning the tide. It's been a difficult few months. October and December is generally months where there's a lot of crime. What is also on the rise, Pradhan, is car hijackings. The minister making mention that one of the challenges with car hijackings is that it seems like criminals have been targeting quite a number of business vehicles. Many of these vehicles are crossing the country's borders. They are recovered, but not the goods. But in terms of sexual offences, it's still cause for concern. This is what the Minister Cele had to say earlier.
A 9.0 decrease has been recorded for sexual offences. Despite this drop, 11,315 people were raped between October and December 2021. This is a decrease of 903 rape cases compared to the previous reporting period. All 9 provinces recorded decrease in rape cases. Over 5,012 of the rape incidents took place at the home of the victims or the home of the rapists. 674 rapes were domestic violence related, and 632 of rape cases in this category involved female victims and 42 were males. The Eastern Cape Lusigi police station and Umlazi and Inanda station in KwaZulu-Natal recorded the highest incidents. Anyway, these 3 police stations, they just exchange between and among themselves. The decrease in some of the sexual offences, especially rape cases, can be attributed to all provinces increasing their GBVF awareness campaigns.
You know, Ronald, the minister is speaking about the rape figures, and although he said they're down in terms of the period that is being reported, 9% down, there are still concerns because the numbers are actually large. I mean, you have 11,315 people who were raped in those 3 months, October, November, December 2021.
They're very large indeed, and this was an issue raised especially this morning during the Portfolio Committee of Police, where MPs were saying that in as much as the ministry can say that these numbers are on the decline, that it still doesn't bode well to the way the police have conducted themselves. In many instances, one of the issues that were raised was that some people go to police to report such cases of being raped and not get the necessary assistance that they need from the police. And some of them, in some instances, are turned away. So they say that the culture of how to handle rape victims needs to change drastically in South Africa for us to see a reduction. One of the other concerns was also the attacks on children. The assault cases are quite staggering when it comes to the attacks on children. So many people that we spoke to, that we heard from earlier on, saying that they are trying to find ways to eradicate such cases. And just on the case, Bradan, on areas where people live in most vulnerable areas, like I mentioned, in some living in informal settlements and others in farming areas where there's been also a spike in killings and also rape cases. The police are saying that they are pulling out all the other stops. They are trying to find such interventions as putting out drones so that those drones can fly into areas where they can try and spot and detect where the actual perpetrators or criminals are. But essentially, it's up to society as well to play their role, because communities as well, where a lot of the crimes happen, especially murder, happen in public spaces where people or those criminals might be known to people living in those areas. So it's also up to the communities to also play their part. But the minister, quite optimistic that things will change. He also mentioned that there will be more police that will be trained. We know that during the SONA, the president had said that around 12,000 police will be trained. We know that this was halted due to the pandemic, where more police essentially were needed but were unable to be trained. So things could change for the better, but still cause for concern, especially with the murder rate. Attempted murders also high at around 3.5%, and other heinous crimes. But one of the positives that had to be mentioned today was not to see areas such as Nyanga here in Cape Town, who has for many years been considered the murder capital. Nyanga actually was rated at around 15 in terms of the highest murder rate or contact crimes, which is a place where a lot of people have said that this must be used as an example. Should South Africa be an area where a lot of people will feel a lot safe, but the concerns are that the crimes relating to violent crime, contact crime, rape and murder are on the rise in areas such as in Nanda, in KZN, and the minister is speaking strongly that this will be something that will need urgent attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Ronald Masinda. They're just wrapping up and highlighting some of what has come out of today's briefing of the crime stats for the period October to December last year. Now,